What's up, fanatics? I'm Brighton.
And I'm wearing no pants.
And today we're going to cover the newest Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. So first I want to say we didn't get 3 Spider-Man pointing at each other, but we did get a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah, we got more story about the villains. Now, starting with Sandman, we didn't get a whole lot as far as Thomas Hayden Church, but what we got looked good. Now, Electro looked amazing, and we actually predicted his look.
Yes. Early on, you said their best look would be to give him something similar to like that comic look, and you're hoping that there would be that homage to the comic look at least, because that's normally what the MCU will do.
Yep.
And I had suggested that he might end up looking more like he does in the Spider-Man game, where we end up getting like that harness style, so we did get to see that.
Yeah, the star-shaped mask being fabric or whatever would look absolutely ridiculous. And we knew that wasn't going to happen. But I really felt like being brought into the MCU, they'd give him that homage. And I mentioned the yellow electricity when he's supercharged, and that came to fruition. The harness look, like you said, that happened. So I was really happy with how Jamie Foxx looked in this. Now, Jamie Foxx actually posted on Twitter after the trailer's release, and he used the hashtag chasing spiders. Bet old Kevo didn't like that one bit.
Definitely not. Doc Ock looked puzzled to gain the red, blue, and gold. Seems obvious that it's nanotech from Spider-Man's suit, since when he's being held upside down, the nanoparticles from his chest are gone, and the nanoparticles from his head move down to his chest to block that hit. So he's missing some of that nanotech, just like when Iron Man's suit adjusted to protect him against Thanos.
Yeah, we see Otto not acting so evil when he's talking to Peter, MJ, and Ned, where they make fun of his name, which means at the very least he's not being controlled by the arms. You can always tell when he's being controlled by that lit red light on the inside of the arms, but you can tell that his arms have the nanotech at that point in the scene. We also see him take a blast from what it seems to be Electro in a later scene. So when we don't see him fighting in the big scene at the end, I'm thinking that during a good chunk of this movie, he's not evil. I don't know whether he's helping Peter directly, but he doesn't seem to be the villain anymore.
Regardless of whether he's good or evil in much of the film, this gives me 2 thoughts. We could get the homage to Otto Octavius becoming Superior Spider-Man. The nanotech deactivates the mind-altering inhibitor in his chip, in the arm tech, which is the MCU's like little winky wink.
Or it could go back to like Kevin Feige getting his revenge from the early days when he actually wanted Tony Stark to create the tech that Otto uses as the arms. He reached out to Sony. He wanted the Sonyverse from Sam Raimi's Sonyverse to be blended in with the MCU, but Sony denied that. They're saying that they were going to reboot Spider-Man into the Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, so they didn't want Marvel to mess with their property in any way.
Now, Lizard, not many surprising look changes to him or story arcs revealed with him, but then a friend of yours actually texted you about it, didn't he?
Yeah, so when you actually texted me as soon as we watched the trailer, and I was like, something's kind of weird, but that was an awesome trailer. And I was referring to that big fight scene at the end. You could tell Lizard wasn't jumping at the Spider-Man that we see, Tom Holland Spider-Man, but a friend texted me and told me to look at the Brazilian trailer on Twitter, and holy shit, they added a few seconds into their copy. And it shows during that big fight scene, Lizard being hit in the face by nothing. Now, we have a few options here. They uploaded the wrong file copy of the trailer, or they did it on purpose for us to sit here and discuss it. Either way would work. Now, these Sony mistakes are so out of control at this point that they're starting to feel on purpose.
Like, it's kind of crazy that they would even have that scene still like available, which makes it almost feel purposeful.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, many people are thinking that they uploaded the wrong copy with Garfield and Maguire versions of Spider-Man edited out. They very much could have yet to even add them to it. I mean, it's a month ago, so it's kind of getting to that point where you think they would be done with this, but some of these edits happen up to almost the last minute, so we don't know. What is obvious, that is in every copy of Lizard wasn't jumping towards Tom Holland. Like, he wasn't jumping to him, so something's going on there. Now, one thing that isn't being discussed as much is, what if it's Miles Morales?
That is a possibility. Miles can cloak himself, and the lizard with his heightened senses would be able to leap towards him in his general direction. Now, this scene jumped out at me immediately when we were texting over it earlier when the trailer dropped. It really stood out in the sheer fact of they're obviously jumping at two different people. And
yeah, something's happening in that fight scene. Andrew, Tobey, Miles Morales, something's happening. I mean, it could also be Doctor Strange or Doc Ock or something like that, but why would that be edited out?
And I mean, you could make a case for Doc Ock being edited out because they want to portray him as the villain and not a possible good guy. But it does seem a bit odd. And if you look at the way the face kind of like whoa, like that, it looks more like an actual punch, not like a robotic like slap or some shit like Doc Ock would have done.
I really don't think whatever ends up being, Lizard didn't get sand in his eye.
Yeah.
You know, something happened there. But everybody's discussing that. So let's move on to some of the other stuff. Green Goblin. Now, when I noticed all the stuff in that fight scene and started texting you, you were the one that pointed out to me that there was the scene of him flying on the glider without or in a hood. It was a different look.
And he's using I can't remember what they're called exactly, but his little like Green Goblin slicer bats. And there's a whole horde of them flying with him. A little bit maybe tech upgraded from what we have seen from the earlier Sam Raimi films.
No, my brain was automatically set to Willem Dafoe. I knew Willem Dafoe was in the movie already. I mean, I guess it hadn't been 100% cleared. We still haven't seen Willem Dafoe's face clearly, but I'm so set on being Willem Dafoe that I automatically saw it as Willem Dafoe and moved on. I was like, okay, costume change type of thing. But you pointed out it could be some other people.
Yeah, it could be Harry Osborn, played by James Franco from Raimi's Spider-Man movies, or it could be the young Harry Osborn, played by Dane DeHaan in Mark Webb's Amazing Spider-Man 2. Ned could be Hobgoblin at this point.
And you're right. There is no proof. Now, I did zoom in and edit the clip a little bit, and you can't tell for sure that's Willem Dafoe, but it really does look like it could be Willem Dafoe. I'm pretty sure it's Willem Dafoe with only a slight armor change. You're just not seeing as much because he's got the purple hooded cloak type of thing on. So I'm still going Willem Dafoe, but you're right.
The image looks a little bit younger than what Willem Dafoe looks like now, but we've already seen with Alfred Molina that they can kind of de-age down, so it would kind of explain why he looks a little bit smoother skinned, a little bit younger in that photo. Yeah.
Now, speaking of costume changes, we not only see Doc Ock and Green Goblin, but also Electro. All of them seem to have outfit upgrades.
Now, it could be that their outfits are changing due to them being in the MCU. Both the Sam Raimi verse and the Amazing Spider-Man verse all are a little bit lower tech than where we are currently in the MCU.
True.
So the MCU could be rewriting their history so that they have these higher tech gears.
Yeah, now that would work and it would be an amazing story, but I feel like that's a bit of a stretch here just because it's already such a packed movie. So much character development that's going to be needed for bringing all these people back. I don't know, that just seems like a stretch for me. I think it's more likely that like someone is stealing Stark tech. Now that Tony Stark is dead, Happy is supposed to overlook a lot of it. Even Peter was given some of this tech. So this tech could be out there for villains to steal. I think that would be an easier and faster way to explain these upgrades. Now, it could be Goblin or Kingpin that's behind this. Goblin is normally the leader of the Sinister Six, so that would make the most sense right off the bat. However, we do need a sixth villain for it to be a Sinister Six team, which means Kingpin could fill that role.
Yeah.
And, he's got the power and the money to do so. Now, this also might explain why Matt Murdock appears to help combat him. Now, we don't know that Daredevil is going to appear, but we have a good feeling now from leaks that Matt Murdock's in there. So maybe he finds out about the whole Kingpin connection and is going to help combat this on the lawyer side and help Peter out at the end. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities here. I have something I want to talk about with Kingpin as well, of how it references with the comics, but we can get to that a little bit later when I'm talking about comic references. But Vincent D'Onofrio, who plays Kingpin in the Netflix verse. He just tweeted, quote, "This is going to be fun. I love these at Marvel series," end quote. So I think that's referencing him being in Hawkeye, which is coming up, but it does mean that he's in the MCU and could possibly be in this movie. I don't know.
And, speaking on the whole suit changes and everything, one big suit change would be the black suit that we see Spider-Man in. It's probably, from the looks of it, the original Stark Spidey outfit just flipped inside out.
Yeah, there was a leak a while back saying that somebody, a Mephisto supporter, is going to throw green paint onto Spider-Man. We don't have that visually. So I haven't seen proof of that. But if that leak is true, then that does get into why he may would need to flip it inside out.
I did want to tell you, buddy, it was a Mysterio supporter, not a Mephisto supporter. You got Mephisto way too much on the brain.
Mephisto, where are you? Mysterio supporter, hence the green paint. Oh, man. But yeah, I mean, you can see that it has to be flipped inside out. A lot of people are thinking that this is a new black and gold suit that Doctor Strange gives him, because you see the orangey yellow aura of power, the magic power or whatever. But you can also see wires and conductors. And if you remember from the Far From Home movie, when the suit is being printed, the whole 3D printing tech that Stark leaves him, you can see that it's black and gold on the inner layer of his tech.
Now, possibly all of this is to help, redirect that electrical current from, Electro's attacks. With all of that being on the outside, he's less likely to actually be harmed physically. Because we've seen that in the past that Spider-Man have obviously had to kind of redesign their suits a little bit for Electro, i.e. the Amazing Spider-Man 2. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more of that whenever it pops up on the silver screen.
Yeah, and we do end up getting yet another Spidey suit for later on, the big golden spider. So, I mean, we're going to get a lot of outfit changes here. Now, Ned is still wearing his blue and gold Letterman jacket. Pretty sure that's like an Easter egg for his Hobgoblin colors. Now, his contract is over. And if they bring these actors back, maybe it's that Spidey saves MJ and Ned falls in that last scene. You see him hanging from the pole. Now, we might think he dies at the end of this movie, but he could return scarred as Hobgoblin, pissed off at Peter, and that would give him motivation to turn on Peter.
Yeah. And that is extremely possible. And on that whole note of that scene of kind of falling off the Statue of Liberty, that's a very reflective scene of MJ's fall, is very reflective of Gwen Stacy's little head-splitting tumble she took in Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, it would be really interesting if Tom Holland does go to grab her, and in the process of trying to grab her, loses her grip, isn't able to catch her, and you have Andrew Garfield swoop right in for a bit of a redeeming moment, almost as if it's not this time, like, not this time, I won't let it happen again kind of moment.
I mean, we clearly see Tom Holland's Spider-Man hand almost getting to MJ, but you don't see him actually save her. Something else could happen. We don't know what's happening.
And that may not even be his hand. We've had editing. We've had these kind of edited out situations before. It
is his suit that we're seeing, but that doesn't mean it's not a misdirect by Marvel, because they love the misdirects. We've talked about that a lot before. Now, going on with this scene, I'm not sure if it's the same scene or not. It seems to be around an apartment building, maybe when Electro is attacking that apartment
Electro and
building.
Sandman are attacking them.
Yeah, but we do see a scene where like Aunt May is running, and then she's still alive. What seems to be the scene after the Goblin bomb explosion. You see Tom Holland's Spider-Man jumping to stop that bomb, and he doesn't seem to be reaching it in time. So there's going to be an explosion there, and you see him later with much more damage on his face, so I'm thinking it's after that explosion. She's still alive. Now, I'm thinking this could mean bad things for Happy.
Yeah.
Because Happy is obviously going to be trying to probably save Aunt May. You see him getting surrounded in his car by armed forces. I don't know. They seem really emotional. Peter and Aunt May, they seem really emotional in one of those embraces. She's like touching his chest and shoulder. Like, he's going to lose somebody here. Is it going to be Ned? Is it going to be Happy? It could be MJ or Aunt May. I originally thought Aunt May based on the comics, but now we're starting to see a lot of possibilities here.
And honestly, it would make sort of sense that he would lose those people. Like, he would lose Happy.
He could lose a lot of people.
Because it's kind of Happy's... I have 3 reasons why. Happy's kind of run with Iron Man is over.
Yep.
And he then kind of got passed on to Spider-Man. And if this is Spider-Man's kind of end of the run for Spider-Man, it would make sense for Happy to die. He was another father figure to Spider-Man, and it's kind of key that he's lost Uncle Ben.
Yep.
He's lost his actual father, Uncle Ben, Iron Man, Tony Stark, and Happy. That would be him always losing that father figure, which would just continuously put more and more strain on him, which may possibly push him to give up the Spider-Man mantle.
And his Spider-Man run has been very successful, but one of the few complaints is that he hasn't had to be out there on his own yet. Tony was helping him, Happy's helping him, Aunt May's there. Like, he's got all this support. I think it's gonna turn ugly for Peter here. This is gonna be a sad movie.
My final comment on the whole Happy thing before we put it to rest, but is Jon Favreau is a big Disney person.
Yeah.
He's big for Marvel. He's big for Star Wars. Yeah. From an outside the movie perspective, it would make sense if this could be Marvel and Sony's kind of split. We may end up completely losing Jon Favreau from the story because he only really works for Marvel and Star Wars. He doesn't really work with Sony. So that could be one of the final, like, outside the silver screen perspective of why we would be losing Jon Favreau / Happy as a character.
Yep. Now, we also have that purple breakage in the sky. It looks like the orange is turning to purple. So here's my guess. Early on, Doctor Strange's botched spell unlocks the Spider-Verse. But at the end, he is trying to mend it, maybe? And something else happens. The purple's taking over. That could be the dark realm interfering, or some type of dark magic. We've seen all these references to purple as always some form of dark magic, whether it's Dormammu, Agatha. We've had multiple references. And we got to figure out now what this purple breakage really means. Is it the multiverse completely taking over now? So whereas the early scene, you got the small Dyson Sphere looking interference. Was that the spell messing up and allowing for the Spidey villains to come in? And now with this huge one that is enveloping this large area outside of Statue of Liberty, is that one going to bring in a lot more? Because, I mean, we got a lot of options for what's causing this. Not only the spell, but you got Loki. You've got the multiversal break that we happen, with Kang. Scarlet Witch. Mephisto. Nah, it's too early, but he's on the brain. He's always on the brain.
Obviously.
So, I mean, maybe not Mephisto, but let's not overlook that Wanda could be messing with the boundaries of the multiverse, looking for her kids. We know that she's in the multiverse of madness, and I think that is when we will finally start to get some concrete answers of what's going on here and causing all the problems. I think you're also gonna get some more multiversal crossovers, including Shuma-Gorath and Captain Carter from the What If series, Patrick Stewart's Professor X, and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. It's not for sure, but we've had some hints lately from people working on the reshoots from Doctor Strange that they're saying that Benedict Cumberbatch is having to film 6 days a week trying to catch up. And the reason they're saying it is because that for some cameo appearances, that the people they had to have for the cameo weren't available during the main shoot. So those people are having to come in. Hugh Jackman would not have been available during the main shoot. So my prediction is that Hugh Jackman is coming in here. And it's interesting that the purple breakage in the sky occurred at the Statue of Liberty. That's the location of the main fight scene in the very first X-Men movie. Kevin Feige's first superhero movie as an associate producer. So what do you think this could mean?
This could maybe mean that the point where we get the X-Men back from Foxx. Obviously, that wouldn't be shown in this movie, But in Multiverse of Madness, I kind of want to hear Wanda say more mutants instead of no more mutants, and all of the mutants appear.
Yes. I've been saying to you for years now that I think that the MCU is leading up to Wanda being a bigger factor, because I think we're going to get a version of House of M, and I think more and more that the Multiverse of Madness is going to be taking parts of the House of M.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's not going to have where it's a complete X-Men mutant story. It's going to be more based on what we already know about the MCU, but with all these breakages in the multiverse and the way we know that they like to take from different comic lines, I really feel like we're going to start getting some of that. And there's so much hidden in this trailer, and we can't get to all of it. We discussed a few things before filming this, and it's like there's so many things that could mean something, but it goes in so many various directions. We had to kind of condense what we think has something that we can discuss with you guys. One of the ones I noticed, though, there's a car license plate that is ASM 8183. Now, I think that's obviously Amazing Spider-Man. I'm pretty sure it means issues 81 through 83. I've heard different people talk about how it could be all these different comic issues, but I'm pretty sure it's 81 through 83 because that's where Peter's decisions as Spider-Man is putting Aunt May's health at risk. We get, I think it's in 82, we get the return of Electro. We get a scene where Spider-Man's suit gets messed up. We just talked about how that's probably going to happen here. And his friends are starting to get, I think in the 83 it's Gwen Stacy, but it's a situation where he's putting his friends in danger because they're around him. So it's a situation where in that version it's Kingpin's men that are causing the injuries to Gwen Stacy. She's in a coma for a while. This is before she cracks her head open. She's hospitalized with a coma because of Kingpin's men going after Spider-Man. So we're getting a lot of these hints. And like I say, if you look at all the events from 81 through 83, these are the events that seem to connect to the movie. Now, the only other option I think is that if you look at August 1st, the 8th month, August 1st, 1983, there is an issue that came out of Amazing Spider-Man called Options, where Peter has to decide whether being Spider-Man is even worth it anymore. This not only reflects how he's probably feeling in the movie, but seems to reflect how Tom Holland's actually feeling based on his latest interview with GQ, where he actually discusses the toll that being Spider-Man has taken on him, both mentally, physically, and emotionally. And he feels like maybe he should be calling it quits, either now or sometime soon. And he even mentions making way for Miles Morales.
And it is interesting that in an earlier interview, Tom Holland mentions when they cast the young kid in Spider-Man to replace me, possibly nodding even more to the kid who they intended to play Miles in Homecoming, taking up the mantle. Now, that's no guarantee, and it may not be the same kid that they had originally looked at, but it's just even more of kind of a look at saying in Spider-Man could be a little slip of the tongue, or it could mean that the kid that was cast in Spider-Man, i.e. maybe the kid who's supposed to play Miles Morales, or a Miles Morales casted in this movie, taking up the mantle of Spider-Man.
Yeah, and I don't think that he would have meant the actual actor that was cast as Miles Morales, because when they were going to go down that line, it would have been a really young kid. Now, because of the snap and the blip, there would have been 5 years of gap that he could have aged. So they would have went with a different actor, but the way Tom was having that conversation, it could have still been a reflection of meaning that they were trying to bring in Miles Morales.
Yes.
Now, we're seeing glimpses of multiple Spidey comic stories being hinted at. You have One More Day, Brand New Day, One Moment in Time, and Happy Birthday. So, what else have you found? Comment below what you think is happening. And don't forget to subscribe.
Yeah, because we have some awesome new stuff coming up. We have a Superman science lecture, as well as we give our holiday shopping guides to shop for the loved ones in your life. And we have a deep dive into the Stan Lee versus Jack Kirby debate for a fair analysis. And not to mention, Hitmonkey just premiered on Hulu, and Hawkeye comes out next week. So we have tons to talk about. All right, so see you soon.
Later, fanatics.